All right, looks like we are live. Let me make sure everything. Just gonna get this video rolling. I'm gonna try and put a thumbnail and everything on it. Bear with me as I get going. Hey everybody, welcome back to the stream. Got 20 people already in here, so let's just make sure that we are running smooth, and then we're gonna jump into the video. So let me just. Can I get a thumbnail on there? We'll just throw that on there. There we go. Awesome. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Going to be taking a look at some things together today. Got some markets moving here on a Tuesday, and so I wanted to go through some of that with you guys. So welcome to everybody in the stream chat. What's up, Theo, Kyle, Dr. Jari, Ish, Emmanuel? Good to see you guys. What's up? Welcome back. Happy to have you on the stream with me. So we are going to go through some markets. We're going to talk about what's moving, what's not moving, and see if we can talk about some trade setups for this week. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So I want to start. We'll go over to the website and we'll go through the currency heat map to see what's moving today. Let's see if we can. There we go. Okay, so currency heat map. What do we got in terms of today? Well, we do seem to have a mixed dollar there. You've got sort of some weakness there on the New Zealand and the Aussie currencies. And we see the pound giving back a little bit of its profit from yesterday. So kind of an interesting perspective here in terms of just going through where we started in the week, where we had very, very bullish situations for the pound, very bullish situations for the Aussie and the New Zealand. And remember, we talked about it yesterday on stream. We talked about the fact that the pound has some news around the corner that could be impactful on Thursday. And so we want to keep an eye open for that. We also have the US dollar, which is probably going to be heavily impacted this week by that end of the week news, NFP, non-farm payroll, which is basically unemployment in the United States, which has a very big impact on the currency itself. So good morning and hello to everybody who is out there watching the stream, whether you're from somewhere where it's afternoon or morning. Hope you're having a good day. So thanks so much. Dade says, why is the yen so strong today? We'll have to go look at it. So a lot of times what does cause yen strength, the standard is usually you see yen strength happening when there's a little bit of concerns about the overall world. Now, when you're talking about Japan, when you're talking about the Japanese currency, right? A lot of people they don't know much about the reality is a lot of times what you get on YouTube is you just get people talking about like only technicals, and they don't tell you like what's really going on with these currencies and why they're moving up and down. And I find it very, very important to understand. The Japanese economy is not, it is basically, they have such a low interest rate because they want people to not stick their money in the Japanese yen. They want people to take their money and to go invest at other places and to get velocity or money moving in their economy. It's better for their economy if the money market is moving quickly and people are investing in other places and growing the economy in Japan, right? So what we usually see is that in times of growth, macro growth, world economy growth, then we actually see that happening. We see the yen get sold off. People don't want to hold the yen. They want to go buy other things. Well, the flip side happens occasionally as well, where you get strength on the yen when people they move back into the yen because they'd prefer to keep their money safe and steady. The Japanese economy and sticking your money in the Japanese currency has been sort of a safe haven place to stick your money. It's not going to yield you most likely very much, but it is good for preserving your money. Usually when we talk about risk on and risk off, when we're talking about on versus off, usually what you have is when you have risk on, people are going for yield. People are trying to make more money on their money, right? And that's like when you want to buy stocks, when you want to buy more risky bonds, when you want to invest in places that have more growth but more risk. That's where we see risk on thrive. That does not usually happen when we have markets that are very fearful. In that time, people are not looking for yield. They're looking for preservation or protection of their money. And the Japanese yen, and arguably things like gold and the Swiss currency, the Swiss franc, right, are more favored in risk-off environments. This matters because, again, this is talking about the overall flow of the currency market. People, again, technical analysis is helpful. It's nice to know when you have some sort of pattern or structure, but it's not going to tell you everything you need to know, in my opinion. There's more to it. So when we are looking at something like the euro dollar has been an interesting one because it's acted it sort of, just like the US dollar, switches between a safe haven currency and a sort of a more risky currency. Right now, it seems to be a bit more, or at least in 2020, it behaved like a riskier currency as things started to rebound. Well, actually, it's sort of mixed against the U.S. dollar. I'm not gonna say that. So people buy the euro when they think that the European economy will outperform the U.S. economy, right? And that was the case back in 2020 when the vaccine rollout was very slow in the U.S. And people were concerned with the whole presidential elections going on. People were much more in favor of the euro during this time and basing their, putting their confidence in that European economy. Well, it switched back the other direction when vaccine rollouts were perceived as negative or not so good during 2021, and we saw a big favoring of the US dollar. Now, where are we left with that? Well, we've recently had a rally on the euro that's sort of left us in this sort of back and forth environment with the euro. So while we're on the euro, we might as well talk about it. It does seem like it's got some nice arguable uptrend structure here on the 4-hour chart. A little bit different if you look on the daily. You've got a bit more of some interesting mixed sentiment. By the way, the moving averages that I have are the 50, the 100, and the 200. I just add them. The ones that I really care about, the only one I really care about is the 200 moving average. But I sometimes find it helpful just to add on more, just to see, how strong or weak a trend is overall. I find moving averages are just a helpful tool for that. Jack from Facebook says, finally, I found you on Facebook. What's up, Jack? Happy to have you tuned in on the Facebook side of things. Hey, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure to like down below. It's we're new to streaming on Facebook. That's sort of a new experience that I'm trying to do on the streams. Just for people who prefer it on Facebook, or maybe they're just on Facebook more often than YouTube, might be easier for you to get it there. Wherever you are, make sure to like the stream down below. Let's get into some trade ideas on the euro. So where are we at with the euro? Well, this week, we've started out pretty bearish. The thesis here for the euro does look like it may want to continue lower. Now, when we're looking at this, you can see we have a nice little uptrend that was just recently broken. Real downside strength here. We did start to see a rebound, but you can see sellers very quickly took back over and have continued the sell pressure here on the euro USD. So where do we go from here? Well, I think if anything, we are probably going to head lower. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, the US dollar seems like it's ready to rebound a little bit. It does look like it has potential to strengthen. What does that mean for EU? Well, if you have the US dollar strengthening, that could mean bearishness for the euro. But with everything coming up this week, we have NFP, which has a lot of impact on the US dollar. So before I'm going to call, where I think Euro USD is going, the big news that we are probably going to be on hold for is that NFP on Friday. Should that come out very bullish for the US dollar, we could see the euro head lower. And so we might as well just talk big picture about where that could be. If we drew a fib retracement from the start of this trend here to the top of it, a 50% retracement lands us down here at, more specifically, 1.1930, right? So that would be a 50% retracement off the highs should things get bearish. Probably a reasonable place, especially with structure there to the left, for a retracement too, should the dollar stay strong. Now, in terms of where we could go from there, should things get really bearish, we get a really good bearish catalyst or a bullish catalyst for the dollar, which could cause the euro to go lower. Watch for the break of this structure, because in that case, I would say probably a nice run down to the previous low. And the reason that I have this concept is that we are in sort of a range-bound market on the euro. Range-bound / downward trend. Depends the time frame you're looking at. If you look at a weekly chart, we look pretty bullish. And if you look at a 4-hour chart, we look semi-bearish. So this is the thing. Trends are a little bit tricky because depending on when you look at them, they can be a little bit different. But for me, when I'm looking at this, I'm saying, okay, on the 4-hour chart, we are forming lower highs. There's 1, 2, and the third one here. That looks pretty bearish, right? So if anything, if this trend wants to keep going, if you're bearish on the euro, a pretty reasonable target, which seems pretty far away, but could get there pretty quick if things really started going bearish, could be a move down to this previous low there at 1.17. We talked about that back here. We said price is probably going to 1.17, and sure enough, it did. Actually, this was annoying. I called out 1.17. I think it literally just barely missed it. So there's 1.17, and you can see it's hard to even tell, but price came right on down just above it and turned around on a dime. So we'll see if it actually can tag the 1.17 level this time. How's everybody doing in the chat? I hope you guys are having a good day and having a good start to your trading week. Got some interesting movements this week. I do want to talk about some pound pairs. So maybe we'll talk about the pound dollar today as well. And then maybe we'll talk about some Canadian currencies as well with everything that happened with the CAD central bank last week. Going to be interesting to see if the pound can follow. The pound has central bank policies coming out on Thursday, which could cause some volatility there for GBP pairs. So keep an eye on that. Last week, we had some very very bullish news for the dollar CAD. Let me pull that up for you guys. So let's look at the dollar CAD together. So last week, we had this spike here. And that's not just a random spike. That's not just something that was 100% technical. That was fundamentally driven. We had a strong sell-off on the dollar against the CAD because of CAD central bank, we'll say CB. The CAD central bank basically said that they had it was a bullish outlook on the Canadian economy, and that at some point the printing press of money was looking to potentially be slowed down. And so that is very bullish for a currency, right? Because if you look at it, what causes a currency to go down? Printing money, buying of things to try and stimulate the economy can cause the currency to weaken. Right. Well, when they say, hey, we're going to slow that process because things are looking good, that's very bullish for the currency. So I'm bullish on the CAD. And you can see this big spike here just ran and ran. So beautiful continuation. And that's sort of the power of running with a fundamental move. So this week, that was last week. Now this week, we have something coming out for the pound. And so if things look good for the pound, we could see a similar type movement on the GBP pairs. Ryan says, not at the office today. Not today. Doing some stuff from home. We've got a very, very busy week next week. We have somebody new joining our in-person team, which is really exciting. And then the following week, we have 2 more people joining our in-person team. So that's going to bring us to 6 people in person, behind the scenes, making this content possible, as well as all the articles and partnerships with brokerages. Things are getting busy in the office, and sometimes it's nice just to be working from home for a little bit. Mingo says, did you run your 10-mile run? Hey, not yet, but I'm planning on it. A little bit dreading it, but planning on it. It's been really rainy here in Atlanta, so we weren't able to do it yesterday. But yes, it is a looming thing that I must do. For those of you guys who are not sure what I'm talking about, my girlfriend and I were doing a 13-mile run, a half marathon pretty soon that we signed up for, and fingers crossed I make it to the finish line, but we will see. But we're doing a training, so we're doing a training process. So we're doing 10 miles. I think today, probably today. So if you guys don't see me on the live stream tomorrow, you know what happened to me. I collapsed on my 10-mile run. Where do you get all the news for this stuff? It's a lot of reading, Glohan. But I do want to say, with the new hires that we have coming in, one person is going to be a researcher. He already does content for us. His name is Frank. He's a friend of mine, and he's been working with A1 Trading for a while. We're going to be doing some in-depth fundamental analysis, highlight summaries every week for members. So if you guys aren't already members, that's going to be your chance. And that's, again, somebody I'm paying full time to do the research, to dig deep on currencies, currency pairs, upcoming big news in terms of fundamental analysis, and summarize it for members. So if you're not already a member, there's going to be a huge reason to be a member with that, because I'm going to be reading it myself all the time, because that's going to be super useful to have. So yes, pretty bullish on the CAD going into this week. I think it has more upside potential, even though it's been stretched. Again, when you get this change in monetary policy, it can stretch for a long time. You can get this move that lasts, a trend that lasts 2 months. So we will see if anything wants to happen up there. Good stuff, bro. Might sign up. Yeah, would love to have you inside the group. Not going to press you though. I mean, if you don't want to, it's fine. And we do. The cool thing about our business model is we make money from YouTube ads. We partner with brokerages. So that's what makes it so that we can make this free content, because this content, obviously, it takes up my time. It takes up my team's time. But the cool thing is just you guys hanging out in YouTube does support the content. So if you're enjoying these streams and you want them to continue, the best thing you can do to make sure that they do continue is to smash the like button every time you watch. So thank you guys so much for the support. GBP and Aussie making waves, says Dave from Facebook. Yeah, you know what? I want to jump back over to the currency heat map because I did it really quick this morning. So it does seem like the pound is really weak today. And then you've got the Aussie sort of weak as well. So let's look at some of those pound pairs. I would like to take a look at GBP USD, like I mentioned earlier, and see what's going on. And we are going to start fresh on this one today. So let's do the pound dollar. So pound dollar found some strong support here at 1.383. And then it's also, I just want to mark this area in case we get down there. This area down below, I want to say 1.37, let's say. So nice support down there at the lows. And then the other notable areas that I see are going to be your pivotal zone here at 1.4. So huge psychological level for the pound. Round numbers like this, we all kind of see them, right? We're all like human beings. So we naturally, $100 is a big, key number. $1,000 is a key number. $500 is a key number. Like it was a really big deal when Tesla stock before it split was over $2,000. That was a huge deal, right? And so that was a psychological number. So sometimes I find it interesting to note or keep in mind these psychological numbers. Because look at this, every time price came up to 1.4 on the pound dollar, we had a sell-off. And so that's a huge psychological level. If price comes up to that point again, and we were to break it, for example, which I've been talking about that trade idea for a few weeks now, if that comes into play on the pound dollar, I could very well see myself looking for upside on that move and maybe even head up to our next key level, which is going to be the previous top right around 1.42. Okay, so that's how I would mark up this chart. I wouldn't do much more than this. I would keep it fairly simple. If you want to add more moving averages just to see what it's looking like, you can do that. But for me, just keeping it nice and simple is all I need to do. So from a technical perspective, this is about as complex as I get. If you watch my channel, if you watch my streams for long enough, you'll notice that I'm not incredibly complicated with my charting. I wouldn't call myself like a super complex technical analyst. I am pretty straightforward. Sometimes I'll even add, basic trend lines, something like this, just to see, what price seems to be doing. You've got kind of like this formation. You could make that argument. But again, the major pieces for me are show me the major horizontal levels that people are watching, and show me the overall trend with a simple moving average. It's really like not much more complex than that. I think a lot of people want it to be more complex. They want it to be like a magical sort of like, combine all the factors and then you'll get it right. But for me, it's just the simpler, the better. So that is what we're looking at. So another person from Facebook just says, just before you go, could you please do Euro GBP? We will take a look at Euro Pound. Shout out to our Facebook fans over there tuning in to the stream. So thanks so much for being on Facebook. Kind of cool just to have people. We're streaming on multiple platforms at the same time, which is just awesome. We found a really cool platform that allows us to do that. But Bank of England has an announcement that is coming Thursday. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So keep an eye on that. And we're going to cover that. Hi, Nick. I'm in Australia. So with your membership, as you take the trade, do I still get the notification? And if so, how? Yes. So we have to do everything in Discord. So if you're not familiar with Discord, there's all sorts of information on the private group down below in the description. You can read up on the membership itself and see all about it there. So I definitely encourage you to do that if you have any interest in joining us. All of my trades, as well as the other trades taken by our analysts. We have, like I said, a team of people who are working behind the scenes to do that. You can figure out and see all of the different trades that we're taking inside of the private group. I took a trade this morning and I closed out another one for a small profit. So we'll see if we can catch some more moves the rest of this week, especially with that pound dollar news coming out. So we have both of these currencies being impacted heavily this week. One by GBP monetary policy. The central bank in England has some big release news coming out for monetary policy, which could cause the pound to go down or up. We don't know where that's going. If it follows along with the Canadian central bank, I would expect things to look good. And in fact, that's why I think, if anything, the pound could be bullish this week off of that central bank release. Canada had a great week last week with their central bank, talking about slowing of stimulus, which is very positive for their currency. Could see the same for the pound. Not saying it's going to happen for sure, but that would be my bet if any. So going into that, I think that, looking at these discounts on the pound could be, opportunities for buys. As always, I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I got to roll my disclaimer there. This is not something where I'm telling you what to do with your money. I'm just sharing my opinions. But when I'm looking at the pound, I think that these could be seen as discounts prior to the news. Now, some people really don't like to hold trades into the news, and I can't blame them for that. News causes volatility, which can go either way. Spikes can happen. And so, but for me as a swing trader, I don't mind holding things into news. I'm just looking for opportunities where, I get the best sort of risk to reward. So when I'm looking at the pound dollar, a retest of this demand zone to me seems like a pretty good opportunity. We started out great this week, gave some of that back with some dollar strength coming in here. So we will see if price can rally off of that low or not. But again, discounts in that area, in my view, could be worth paying attention to. How about Japanese yen? Do you fancy selling it? I do. Yes. I've been bearish on the yen for a while now, just as the markets continue to stay in a risk-on environment until further notice. Pretty much bearish on the yen and the Swiss franc. Gold members, well, yes, gold members have access to any improvements that we make to the private membership. Gold members, it's like a one-time fee. You don't have to pay for anything else. If we add something, you get it in the inside of the Discord, that is. All right, so that's pound dollar. Let's look at something else. We'll move on from this one and see what else we can get into. So the pound has big news. The dollar also has big news. So let me just look at the DXY with you guys here. So we do see the DXY. This is the US dollar index that's crossed against the euro, the yen, the pound, the Aussie. This is sort of just like a mixed conglomerate. You can see the dollar has been pretty bearish, starting to see a bounce here. Can it turn into a bigger one? That is going to be the question. Let's start looking at it, something like dollar yen. Someone asked about the yen just a moment ago. I am bearish on the yen and pretty bullish on the dollar. So this looks pretty good. Looks like it has room to head back up to the previous highs. I probably wouldn't bet against this. I wouldn't be shorting the dollar yen personally. If anything, I'd be looking for opportunities to get involved on the long side. So this is pretty much my markup from the other day. Came down, formed this support, rallied off of this trend line, although it being a little bit of an ugly trend line. Still a nice little upward momentum there. Pull back to that 38.2 and then rallied off of that. So beautiful little technical pullback there for the dollar yen swing traders out there. So congrats if you caught that move. What about dollar Swiss franc? So the dollar against the franc here has been a real interesting one. Let's start fresh on this one. We'll see what we can do. So on the 4-hour chart, we've come to a little bit of a standstill. We got some support at the previous low here. Let's see if we can change that color. And then you've sort of got some short-term resistance. We've entered sort of a lower time frame range-bound market. So if you're watching this one on the lower time frames looking for the breakout, if you're a bull on the dollar Swiss franc and you're a day trader or looking for short-term moves, watch for something like this. There could be the run-up in play, especially with that news coming out on Friday. NFP could very well cause the dollar against the franc to start moving. So if you're a day trader, you're watching it Friday, watch for these sort of moves. This could happen. Technically, the same thing could happen on the downside should things come out very bearish for the dollar. Could get one of these guys playing out as well. Now, this is a 4-hour chart, so that's probably not going to move that much. But if we look at something like the 1-hour chart, you're looking lower time frame, 15-minute chart, 30-minute time frame. You could see stuff like that playing out. But again, just going to come down to the news going into the end of the week. So that's dollar Swiss franc. What else do we have? So we've taken a look at a couple different dollar crosses. What about the Aussie? Take a look at the Australian dollar here. Loving the lows that it formed here this morning. You can see on the 1-hour chart really rallying off of that point, definitely solidifying itself as some support there. So definitely some buyers in this region. Can extend it out just to fit this a little bit nicer. There we go. So the Aussie forming a nice little low. Seems like 0.77 does not want to break right now. We will see if that changes, but for now it does seem like bulls are holding the lows here, and probably some decent risk reward just playing this range. Honestly, I think you've got something like this. Even right there, that's a 3-to-1 right there with a pretty conservative stop loss of what, 37 pips. So playing the bottom of this range, looking for demand to hold. If you're bullish on the Aussie, could see that move head up to the previous high there. And again, the other trade that I talked about with this one, very similar to the pound dollar, is looking for this move here, looking for that break above this multiple week high that does not seem to want to break. And maybe seeing if we can get a run back to the previous high. On the higher time frames, I'm bullish on the Aussie. It's had a really good, last year or so. 2021 has started out slow for the Aussie, but last year was incredibly bullish for it. And I do think that it has potential to continue going into the rest of 2021. Okay. Ronna Wright says, have you ever tried a 50 pips a day strategy? I've also called around the globe strategy. Well, the thing is, here's the problem with that. I'm always gonna be your sobering answer for you. But the problem with trying to say I'm gonna get 50 pips a day is it's fun on paper, but it's really hard in actuality, because sometimes 50 pips, that's a good bit of movement in the markets, and to expect to get it every day from the markets is a little bit tough, because there are going to be days where you're winning. There are going to be days where you're losing. So if you can average on over time 50 pips a day, you're doing really, really well. I think like the naming convention is always like tricky, because people see that and it's like, oh yeah, I'll make 50 pips a day. It's easy, but it is definitely not. I've been doing it long enough to tell you that anything that sounds easy in the markets it's not actually easy. It's requires skill, practice, dedication, time, all that stuff that nobody wants to do, This stuff is not easy, you guys. You already know, if you hang out in my channel long enough, I'm not here telling you it's easy or that you'll make a lot of money quickly. I wish it was. We'd all be on our yachts, but alas, we're not. It takes time. It's a honestly, successful trading, I think, is a lifelong journey. Like everybody that I know that is actually making good money from their trading, it's something they do for a long period of time. I've been doing this for 5 years, and for the first time ever, the last 2 years of my trading have actually been pretty substantially impactful financially for me. Up until that time, I was still, refining and perfecting strategies. About 2 years in, I started seeing consistency. And then for a year, I was trading tiny lots, practicing and getting accustomed to live accounts. And then the last 2 years, I've really started to actually see some profitability from my trading, like that actually was impactful to my financial. That's 5 years in, you guys. That's 5 years. That's like a college degree. And so if you're not willing to dedicate that amount of time, that amount of energy into, successful trading, I think, like, honestly, most people are just going to fall by the wayside. They won't make it because if you're not willing to treat this like any other degree, any other skill, any other job, it's going to be tough. A lot of people come into this, they think it's going to be some sort of, in 3 weeks, I'll be printing money. And I hated that when I was a new trader. I hated the idea. People would say, oh yeah, don't expect to make money for years. And I'm like, I don't want to wait years to make any money from this. But again, after years of doing it, now I see they were right. So all the successful traders that I know slow and steady. Just have the patience. My best advice to you, if you are a new trader and you're watching this and you're sitting there, you're like, well, I don't want to make money 5 years in. I want to make money now. I would honestly encourage you to try and forget the money. I know it's hard. Forget the money and try and fall in love with actually learning about trading and learning about markets. That was the thing that actually made me, as soon as I stopped caring about making money short term and started focusing on like, oh, I actually really like this stuff. Like I find it interesting to find key levels on charts, to read up on economic developments and look at this almost like instead of watching Netflix, I'm doing this, right? If you can treat it like that, eventually the money will come, but don't worry about the money right now. Okay. As Leandro just shared, welcome to everybody tuning into the stream. Thanks for being here. Do appreciate you guys supporting and comments and the questions and the likes and everything. You guys are the best. And thanks to Leandro for dropping this message. We do streams Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. U.S. Eastern, so you can tune back in. Best way for you to get notified is to subscribe to the channel and click the bell next to the name. So if you want to hang out with us in the future, bam, there's how you do it. Got an awesome community of people hanging out and doing our thing here. Hey, Nick, how much profit do you expect from a week to week? I don't expect any profit week to week. So it is basically Nicholas. That's what my mom calls me. Don't call me Nicholas. I'm kidding. It is quite blurry. Are you guys blurry? If it's blurry, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what to do. I'll see what I can do. Week to week, I don't expect any sort of profit, right? So I'm looking more month to month, quarter to quarter, and even year to year for my profit. Because like it'd be nice for me to say, oh, every week I try and make 5%. That'd be fantastic, right? But it's not really realistic, right? It's the markets. Let's say that you were bullish on the pound during this week, and everything you touched was just a loser. That would stink, right? Let's say you were bullish on the pound this week and everything you touched was just a massive winner. 2 different weeks, two very different outcomes, right? And this week you made a lot of money, and this week you were just wrong and you lost some money. Hopefully you controlled your losses in this time and you let some nice winners form here. But again, expecting every week or having a goal every week is nice, but it's pretty unrealistic with understanding that, the markets, they give or take profit for you. You don't really decide how much you're going to make each week. You have to stick to a plan. You have to back test that plan, have a strategy. If it goes well, then great. You could make, hopefully more weeks are profitable than negative. And over time, you're looking for some sort of average, but just depends. Thanks. Have a good day. You're very welcome. No problem. Crystal clear. Thanks, Kenny. Appreciate you. That's my grandson's name. Well, he's got a great name. Okay, so what else? So let's look at the pound dollar. We're looking at the pound yen here. We might as well talk about it. Pound yen, for my intraday traders here, looking at pound strength, looking like we're bouncing back pretty nicely. Forming a low for the day on pound yen. Came in real hard on the sell pressure there, but it looks like the pound is coming back against the yen here. How is the yen doing across the board now? Let's go back to the currency heat map and see what is going on in terms of that. You guys can come to this anytime you want on the website. Just head up to this link here, a1trading.com, and just navigate to you can go to Forex Retail Sentiment, COT reports, but I'm on the currency heat map right now. Come to our website anytime you want and read through. We have articles and stuff. You can see Bart put out something about his weekly forecast, and we have all sorts of stuff. So come to the site and check out the free content there for you as well. Especially if you're a reader. Is anybody a reader in the chat? Do you guys like reading? Or text format? I know you guys obviously you like video content if you're hanging out with me, but some people just prefer looking at articles and reading through content as well. They can take it at their own pace. So to each their own, but if you like that stuff, definitely check out the site. So renewed look here, you can see the yen a little bit weaker. The yen only losing to the dollar today. So the dollar is the only thing that's beating the yen as of today. The yen overall is doing well against the pound, the Swiss, the Aussie, the CAD, and the New Zealand, as well as the euro. So just wanted to see what the yen was doing across the board. Swiss franc also sort of mixed. Seems like it's given back a little bit of its profit here so far today. But anyways, nice little rally. Maybe some of you guys caught this if you were looking at this level. Kind of tagged into this zone and really quickly reversed. Denise says she loves reading. Awesome. Yeah, we got some readers. Victoria, Rosa, Denise. Hey, look at that. We got a lot of female traders in the chat. That is awesome to see today. Julie and I always have the conversation. We love the idea of attracting more females to the trading space. It is such a male-dominated space, but I definitely don't think that it needs to be, and that I think female traders have a lot of potential to maybe even like do better than a lot of male traders, because a lot of guys, I'm speaking from myself and my experience as a guy, there's a lot of times where we have like a lot of ego, and we bring a lot of ego to our trading. I don't know for the guys out there if you can agree with this or if you experience this too, but when you first get into trading, there's like a lot of ego and there's a lot of stubbornness and there's like this want to make money and to bust it out. And for the most part, from my experience with the admittedly limited number of female traders that I've chatted with, many of which are in the private group and people who have just come along in my journey with, they seem to be much less egotistical, and they seem to be a lot more organized and patient with their trading, which is something that I've had to learn over time. That's like a learned skill for me. I think everybody has to learn it, but it does seem like most of the female traders have a little bit more of that naturally. Look at that. All the female traders showing up today. What's up, you guys? Leah's in the chat. And everybody is agreeing with that. So I'm glad the ego is not in the chat today. My mom trades too. That's why I trade. That's an awesome. I wish my mom got me into trading, but I can't complain. My mom got me into all sorts of good things. So love to my mama. All right. So pound yen. Look at this. As we're watching this thing is rallying today. Lots of strength on the pound as it moves up against the yen. And remember, what we talk about with the yen is when we're looking at the yen, we got to understand what is going on fundamentally. The Japanese yen, they have a negative interest rate. It's negative 0.1%. So what that means is that you're penalized for holding your money in the Japanese currency. And they do that on purpose, right? The Japanese, they want you to take your money and to go invest it or go put it somewhere else, or at least not have it in cash, whether it's back in the economy, buying and selling things, just don't have it in the Japanese yen, because they want to stimulate their economy. So they want to not have people holding on to their cash. They also have an older generation or an older country. Japan is a very older on average population. And, so there's this, hoarding of holding on to money. So they want to encourage people, invest that money, put it somewhere so that it stimulates the Japanese economy. So anyways, long story short, during times of fear, people usually sell the yen, they usually buy the yen as it is a little bit more stable. And then in good times, people do something a little different. They sell off the yen. They say, well, I don't want to take that negative growth. I want to go put it in something that's going to grow positively. So they'll invest in U.S. stocks, U.S. bonds, foreign bonds. They'll invest in, real estate, just anything that's not holding on to that Japanese yen. So when we are looking at this right now, my bias across the board with Japanese yen currencies, currency crosses, is saying I want to buy non-Japanese currencies. I want to buy the pound. I want to buy the Australian against the yen. I'd rather sell the yen because things are positive right now. Things are in like a optimistic outlook. Things are growing in the world of macroeconomics. Like the economies around the world, we're seeing unemployment drop. We're seeing good. So that naturally shows a sell-off or a less demand for the yen. So when we see something like this, where the yen gets strong for the day, I'm usually looking at that as an opportunity to sell the yen and buy something else. Now, of course, that can change if we see markets get fearful again. You would probably see the yen get some strong demand, but for the time being, mostly looking to sell the yen and buy crosses against it. So the pound is something that I am looking in favor to right now. We will see if this continues to rally. Let's look at something else. We'll take a look at the Cad Yen, see how this one's doing. Nice rally off of the lows here. Beautiful little move. And I got to check in just a second how my Cad Swiss trade is doing. We'll look at that and see if it's doing okay or if I'm getting smoked. Cad Yen bouncing off of the lows very nicely. So beautiful little pullback here this morning. Not much to say there other than, I think that if this trend continues, probably headed back to the previous high. And of course, I wouldn't be shorting at the top. I probably wouldn't even be trying to sell this thing anywhere near where we're currently at. I'd be looking for buys on the pullback. I mentioned this exact trade setup yesterday. I didn't take it, but I took it on Cad Yen's cousin, Cad Swiss. So let's see how this one's doing. Beautiful. Look at that. I took this trade right before the stream. There's my entry and going well so far. Up some nice money today on Cad Swiss. We'll see if that one can continue. I think your first stop for Cad Swiss, for those of you guys who are also in this trade, whether you're in the private group or you just bought Cad Swiss today, I think your first stop is probably a move up to this point. And if we can break through that, you've got a nice little run up to Disneyland here to this 0.75 level. At least that's how I'm viewing it, right? I'm saying, you look at this. I looked at this on the 1 hour chart this morning. That's how I took my entry. You can see price came into this chop. I went long and I had a stop loss just below this consolidation area. So if price rolls over and, knocks me out for a loss, it's good. It's fine. I'll just cry for like 20 minutes max and then we'll move on. But the reality with any of this is, you just have to be ready for your stop loss to get hit. You can't like be like, oh, I can't handle a stop loss today, because if you're sitting there and you're constantly in fear of your stop loss getting hit, a lot of times what people will do is they'll say, oh, well, maybe I'll just move it a little bit lower so it doesn't get hit. And then maybe I'll just move it a little bit lower as the price seems to be chasing you, right? And then ultimately, what does it do? It tags you out for a giant loss. So not going to be doing that. If it rolls over and reverses, it's all good. We'll just look for another chance, maybe somewhere else to enter. But we will see what happens on this trade here going forward. Looking like it's on the shorter time frames, probably getting some volatility here. We spiked up and now reversing. We'll see if that can keep going higher or not. But again, pretty bullish on the CAD this week, and I think it has more upside potential going into the rest of the week. Don't look at it. Trust your strategy. Can be a really good, not looking at it can be a great strategy. As long as you set up your risk properly and just, let it run, you can do your thing. So we'll see if this one keeps going or if it totally reverses and tags me out. But either ways, it is what it is. Andy says he lives right next to my door. I kind of doubt that, but come knock on the door sometime. Come hang out. Draco says, never move the stoppie. You'll lose your sanity. That's true. Don't do it. It's not worth it, you guys. Okay, let's go take a look at gold here. Pull up gold for everybody. Look at that. Gold rallying hard. So we actually had a beautiful, man, gold is like really, really respecting structure right now. For my price action and structured traders, pay attention to gold because it seems to be really holding levels nicely. So price came up to this level, sold off. Demand came in right around here, and we'll see if it can finally do that break up to 1810 that I've been looking for a few weeks. Now, I don't have any positions on gold, but we've been in this range-bound market now for a little bit, and I think that if the bulls get strong, this higher low looks promising. If that rallies, again, going to come down to NFP because NFP will drastically move gold or has the potential to. We will see if it can break through this high and make its way up to 1810. So we're looking at gold here. You guys are saying gold in the chat. Chill. We're looking at it right now. We're looking at gold. Don't you guys worry. So looking at gold on the 1 hour chart. And yeah, so I pretty much think that if price breaks this, you probably see a run up to 1810. Nice little higher low coming in today. Lots of strength on the gold market. The last 2 hours have been incredibly good for gold, pretty much erasing like 8 to 10 hours of selling. Dave just pointed out that there's a list of social medias for you guys to follow in the chat. If you guys prefer something else or you want to follow our free Telegram channel, for example, all of that is in the description down below. Check it out. So why does everyone love gold so much? Phil, I've been wondering that for a long time myself. I don't really know. It's such a obsession, right? You've got so many people who are super, super interested in the gold market. Bank of Japan wants a low currency value so they can keep their automotive industry to be competitive, and they have kept being accommodative since 90s with below 1% interest rate. Yeah, Elvin, that's a good point. The idea here with the Bank of Japan is that a weaker currency is better for their trade war, especially with the automotive industry, with all their cars that they make. It's easier for them to export when their currency is weaker, right? An expensive currency, nobody really wants an incredibly expensive currency because it makes you less competitive globally. If you're looking at the US and China. I always use this example because it's the easiest one that I can think of. Why is everything made in China when you go to the store? Well, one of the reasons could be that their manufacturing is cheaper for them because they have a weaker currency. And so that buying their products in the US dollars is a lot easier. It's easier for us to import those goods, right? All right, so everybody loves gold. I don't get it, but you know what? We do gold every day because everybody loves it. So it is what it is. Gold equals range or danger. Yeah, we've been in a very tight range. Look at this. As we've been talking about gold, it's still shooting up here. Congrats to anybody who bought that pullback on gold. Seems like it's really running. If we're looking at the higher time frames, 4-hour chart, I've mentioned it a few times. I'm not super bullish on gold longer term. I think that, should price rally up to some of these key levels, you could find sellers interested in looking to push this thing lower. According to the COT reports, the COT reports have been pretty negative for gold. We haven't seen a lot of buying to sort of support this move, at least in the latest data that we have as of last Tuesday. But, if that changes, we'll look at it. But I think for the most part, there's been a nice push up here on gold. But I do think at some point sellers will step in, probably to continue the overall downtrend and sell pressure that we've seen on the higher time frames there. So that is what we are looking at on the gold market today. Gold is the king of taking back your profits. Gold is either your best friend or your worst enemy. NZD USD looks like it's going up. Did you analyze that yet? Nope. Let's take a look at it. So we will do NZD USD, see what's going on with this guy. First thing I see is you got a nice little trend line here. Pretty little uptrend on the lower time frames here. Now, you might say, well, it looks bearish on the 4-hour, but if you look at the higher time frames, like super longer term with the New Zealand dollar, then you just see a giant mess. No, I'm kidding. If you just scroll out a little bit, nice little uptrend since the bottoming out during the pandemic lows. The New Zealand took a lot of heat, but since then has been a favorite currency. And so, should that continue, should the narrative continue that some of these commodity-based currencies can continue higher, watch out for these moves, breakouts higher. Those are definitely things that I'd be interested in looking for. I do think that New Zealand could form, all-time highs, or not all-time highs, but multi-year highs should we break past some of these levels and hold support. I think if you're looking at it on the 4-hour chart, I think you're right. There might be some buying opportunities here. Maybe could see a move back up to this zone and maybe even that next level that we highlighted on the daily chart. But you can also see here that 0.7450 level. So I do think there might be some nice risk to reward there. If you were looking at this trade and you caught it right here, you've got structure here. We'll make that green and extend that out just so I'm not bothered by it. There we go. Yeah, I think there's probably good risk reward. I mean, this trade has already happened, but should it double, retest that low, there might be some opportunities to try and just run that one. What is that? A nice 3.5 to 1. So good risk reward there in terms of New Zealand dollar. And if you have more patience, if you're looking for bigger moves, could be even a move back up to here, which gives you an incredible 7 to 1. But again, that's a pretty tight stop. In that case, you might, stretch it out just a bit more if you're looking higher time frame. But again, that would be a huge move if that were to happen. What is that? 310 pips. So is that right? Yeah, about 310 pips. 20K in profits today. If you actually did that, then that's awesome. Congrats to you. No problem, Leah. So let's think, what else can we look at? We looked at Aussie dollar. We looked at the New Zealand dollar. We looked at dollar CAD at the beginning. What else did we miss? I feel like I'm missing one that I wanted to look at with you guys. Let's take it. I do want to take a look just at the stock market just for a second. The S&P 500. Yeah, that's what's causing all this volatility. We've seen a little bit of dip on the stock market today. Watch for my indices traders, people who like this stuff, watching the U.S. stock market. Watch for a move lower down to this point here to see if there's any interest should we get down to that point for buyers to step in. But again, seeing some sell pressure right off the bat here today on the S&P 500 coming in strong. Are the markets open? Yeah, the markets have been open for 23 minutes in the U.S. So we're seeing some sell pressure there, which seems to be causing some volatility on currencies around the board. So very, very interesting there. Anyways, you guys, I do want to remind you, if you're enjoying the stream, make sure to like it down below. You can give it a thumbs up. It's free to do, and it helps me out on the channel big time just by, helping to grow the channel and attracting more people who are interested in trading and talking trading and being realistic about this stuff. I'm not here to tell you it's easy or that you're going to get rich quick or anything like that. You don't see me in a Lambo or anything like that. I don't have a Lambo, and I personally think they're a little overrated. Just my opinion. I'm not a big sports car person though. So if you're enjoying the stream, make sure to like, subscribe if you're new here so that you can come back and see more content for free. If you're trying to be a better trader, again, this is free stuff for you. I do want to say before we leave, you can check out our private group if you're not already in it. Our team in Atlanta runs a community for traders online. You get all sorts of things, trade alerts. You get there's chat rooms available, live webinars for members only. So like coaching webinars and things like that. There's also a strategy library, educational library, all sorts of stuff. If you have any interest at all, just read about it. It's free to read about. You can check the link down below in the description and use the promo code that is there as well to get a discounted rate should you decide to join us. Anyways, you guys, that's going to be it for me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Happy trading. Be safe out there. Remember to risk small and be careful. Don't be crazy. And we will see you back in the next stream. See you guys next time.